everybody. We are back again in the studio today with a very special guest whom I will introduce momentarily. I'm also here with my partner, Eric Howerton, and this is another episode of Big Talk About Small Business.
What do you think about that intro, Gary?
I love that. I know all about small business.
That's right. Yeah.
You do. We've got Gary Head here with us today, who is the chairman and founder of Signature Bank of Arkansas. And he's a good friend of mine. I've known Gary now basically since he started the bank, 20 years. This should be about our 20-year anniversary. And
Signature's at 20 years now?
Yeah.
Years.
That's awesome, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
It's a big deal.
And Gary he's a well-known here in Northwest Arkansas. For those of you who are outside of our area, he's like a rock star. No,
He is.
He's a movie star. We don't say rock star, forget that.
You got a face for radio.
No, he's a movie star of our area.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Gary.
Celebrity
He
stuff.
knows everybody else.
Yes.
It's been a big part of his success. I know Gary's big on relationships. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about that as I was driving up here this morning about how, Gary, you're going to get a chance to tell us some of your story, but you worked with Sam Walton, J.B. Hunt, Don Tyson. You had the greatest country singer alive, Merle Haggard, as your client.
That's legit.
You got Eric and
Got you and Eric
as your clients.
Big talk about small business hosts.
Exactly. That's something.
Greatest damn show on the internet.
But what do you think? Honestly, what is the secret to how you've been able to make so many friendships? I know that you got some good advice from our former athletic director years and years ago.
Well, I think probably it starts a little earlier than that. I got to give a little credit there to my father. My father was a real mail carrier, and he drove around a lot. He didn't have anybody to talk to, so when he found someone to talk to, he got you. And I remember when I was young, I got a little full of myself, as most of us always do, and I thought I was pretty special. And he said, "Let me just tell you something. The worst drunk in this town can drink more than you. That does not make you better than him. You will treat everyone with respect as far as their ability. You don't have to condone it. You don't have to, but you don't get to judge what people are." And so I've spent my entire life trying to make sure I live up to that fact. Is everyone's got something they're good at,
Right.
and some people have demons, you know, and so you try to drive around the people with demons and you deal with all the other people because, everybody has something to contribute, some at higher levels than others, but it doesn't make the person that walks in tomorrow trying to start their business less important than a guy that's been very successful like you two guys.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Well, I remember when I knew you were coming on the show, I can remember specifically in my mind when I was starting up one of my businesses back in the day. I had nothing. I was just grinding, right? And I working with Signature Bank, and Gary would come out and shake my hand as I was in the drive-through trying to make a last-minute deposit,
Couple those checks you wrote.
Not exactly, but that meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
Right? At that time, it was really encouraging. It still does, obviously, if you still shook my hand in the drive-through. But that meant a world to me, because I felt like that, hey, man, I noticed and appreciated.
Yeah, his office was right off the lobby.
Yep.
And he would see people when you come in, and then he would jump out and go talk to them. And, I always like to tell the story, the one about where I was trying to get some information on a building for part of a business plan that I was doing. And I had Bank of America. And let's just say it was a nightmare. There was no way I could get any info out of them. I couldn't get any sense of how much down payment I need for a commercial building without filling out an application for credit.
Exactly.
Okay, which is absurd. I had 7 figures in the Bank of America at that time, and the building was $170,000.
Yeah.
Just trying to do this business plan. And 2 of my friends said, call Gary Head. I call the guy. He's at Tyson's condo in Cabo. He answers the phone. and talks to me for 25, 30 minutes, gives me everything I need, and that was it. Most people are not that accessible. How do you do that? I mean, honestly, you must get like a zillion phone calls and texts and emails.
Well,
how do you manage all that?
My phone number is fairly well known.
Yeah.
And, I'm not very smart, so I have to take those calls because I can't remember if I just done. So I try to handle every single thing as fast as I can because, in business, let's talk about business. Small business
Yes.
is not small to the guy who's got that business. So we can define it if you want small business. If it's your business, it is the most important part of your day.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
When you have to make a decision as a business person, male or female, you need that information as quickly as possible.
Yes.
So speed sometimes is better than, there are a lot of my competitors that take forever to tell you. And the truth is if I don't really like what you're showing me, I should say, hey, Eric, man, I'm never going to get comfortable with that. So the way you're designing that is not going to be something I'm probably going to ever like. So let's either talk about a different way to do it, or there's 30 banks in Northwest Arkansas. Somebody may like that, but most people appreciate the fact that you're just honest from the beginning and say, hey, well, but if it's really something, if like in your case, how many times if I say write the check and bring me the title?
You have done that, and I appreciate that greatly.
It's like I know your business, I know you, I know your financials. What you're asking me to do is right in the middle of where you're supposed to be. And if we have to have a board meeting to bless it later, we'll do that. But having the guts to run a business is not an easy deal. And that goes for bankers and that goes for people in any other business. So if you have a great relationship with your banker, your lawyer, your accountant, you're in a better shape than someone that doesn't know any of the three. Right?
That's right.
Amen.
Those three are always going to be really important.
Sure.
In any business that we're in, because how's it going to affect me from a tax standpoint? Can I do it legally without getting in trouble? Do I have infringements? Do I have all kinds of things that go down the legal deal? And then is my banker going to support me when I get ready to go borrow some money to go down this path, right? And so speed is of the essence, I believe, and I think that's what we're the best at, to be honest with you.
I do think it's a huge differentiator for you. It's accessibility and speed, and you have passed that down through the organization.
Yeah, I mean, my son-in-law, Will Gladden, runs the bank in Fayetteville, and you guys both have dealt with Will.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Answers his phone.
Yeah.
It's sense of urgency that, you want to teach people, and sense of urgency is the reason a lot of businesses are successful because they act quickly to fix if they have a problem.
Yep.
And, many people I know a lot of people that say, I'm never going to take a phone call. My friend runs Arkansas business, right? Northeast Arkansas guy. My old friends in Little Rock used to say, don't you ever talk to those newspaper people because, they're going to write something bad about you. Well, they're going to write whatever they want. You might as well have friendships with them. So at least they're going to go, I'm mad at you, So I call George Walton back every time he calls me or answer his phone. I know that's who it is. And sometimes it's, hey, we've had a bad quarter. I would rather tell it than him.
Exactly.
Hey, that's what happened. We got in the middle of a deal. It didn't work. And you know what? We're going to keep plowing. And I have an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? It is not the end of the world, but nobody likes to lose.
Yeah.
Occasionally you do. It's like being a football coach around here right now, right? Always sometimes. And when you do, what are you going to do about it, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to try to go get some better players. That's what we're going to do. And the ones we got have been pretty good at that. And so, sometimes you just have to believe.
Yep.
Right. And that's a key integral part of any business person's mind is if you don't believe, then I'm not going to believe you.
Right.
You have to believe in what you're selling, what you're making, what you're doing at the highest level. Everybody else comes second, right? And I know my business. I know what we do. No one else can do it. And I know that.
And you say, that's the thing about your business. I've always been fascinated with mature industries where there's a zillion players. And, how many banks do we have in freaking Northwest Arkansas, Gary? You personally know. I mean,
I get
30 different brands.
different brand and 100 outlets or more.
You
Right?
didn't count the Chase that just got here. And everybody wants to be here now.
Everybody's here. It's a highly regulated industry, right? You've got people don't understand. There's a lot of guardrails around what you can and can't do. You may want to do something, but if you can't justify that within the scheme of the guardrails, then you can't do it. And yet, how you have differentiated yourself in this market and been able to come in and grow this bank, aside from the responsiveness and speed, which I have always told my students, if they just do that, they're going to be more successful. What else has allowed you to build this differentiated business in this mature industry?
Great teammates.
Okay.
So that starts with, no one person can do very much without running into problems. So you have to have a lot of people that can do similar skills. And as I mentioned, I'm not really good at a lot of things, but I'm really good at getting a lot of really smart people to work with me. So we have people that have been with me. I'm thinking, Knight Weiss has worked with me his entire adult life. Graduated from college working for me. Never left, been the East president of our bank in Springdale. We have a great team of people. Then we like each other. We got one rule: get along or you get along. And we enforced it. And it's always been, and no business needs to have a better rule than that, because, if you can't come in here and be a teammate, go somewhere else.
That's it.
And so
The cynics and the critics, I got no use for them.
well, life's too short to go to work and have to fight.
But what would you say to the quote outside management expert who would say, "Oh, Gary, you want everybody to toe the line. You can't tolerate any disagreement
I'll give you
or
a
discourse."
great example.
What do you say to that?
The FDIC, when all the banks in the world were in trouble, they put us under an order. Most banks were under an order.
08, 09, somewhere.
And so they required me to get a management study of our team. Well, I was a graduate of the best banking schools in the country, and the very best person to do that happened to work for that company, and I happened to know him. So I used that company, and the FDIC is going, "Oh, how did you get them to do that?" Well, because he was a friend of mine. Let's start down that road. So he turns our bank upside down, as was his challenge and his responsibility. And he takes that very seriously. So he does that. We go to the exit interview. I've got it somewhere. And he said, "I got to be honest with you. I don't know why they asked me to come do this." He said, "The only thing I can find is I think you're paying your security guy too much money." Swear to God. And I said to him, "Well, my security guard doesn't just do security. He does this, he does that, he does this, he does this." Stop. That's all I needed. That's what the report said. So I know how that feels to be
Scrutinized.
in a very demeaning way. This lady at the FDIC told me I was the worst banker she ever met in her life, to my face.
Wow.
Well, that made me better. I should probably go find her and hug her neck, even though I probably won't. But the truth is, it made me work a lot harder to make sure that I could prove she was wrong.
That's right.
And we had a lot of teammates that don't like losing. And I've never met anybody that is a good winner that likes losing.
Right.
So that means you'll work harder. I get up earlier. I'll stay up later. I'll answer phone calls at 9 o'clock at night.
Yes.
But think about this. I grew up in Northwest Arkansas with some of the greatest business people that have ever been on this planet. And you guys talked about a few, but you forget about Jim Lindsay. My gosh, Jim Lindsay
Amazing.
was my guy. He was my mentor. I tried to do everything he did because he was really good at it and he cared, and he probably has much to do molding my life as anybody that I ever dealt with.
He was a very disciplined guy, wasn't he? He was really big on returning calls, too.
I remember a time or two, I'd go by his office and he drove a Wagoneer, paneled Wagoneer, and if it was there, he was there, so I'd stop. If it wasn't there, I didn't stop. So, and I've known every secretary he ever had in his life. So I'd walk in, no appointment, just look in there, and he didn't ever have a desk. He had a couch and he had a phone. And I knew Jim Lindsay before cell phones because I gave him his first one. Think about that. So I'd peek in there, and he'd either go, "Come on in." He never quit talking. Or he'd just do that, and I knew it was go on. He's doing something he didn't need me in the middle of.
Yeah.
So I would go in and sit down, and Karen at the time was his secretary, and This was the old days where you had pink notes and you had that spike.
Yep.
You'd stick them on that spike. That spike would be that high. This would be 8 o'clock at night. And I would go and I'd sit down. And he says, I returned every single phone call on this before I go home. Yeah, that was a Sam Walton rule too.
Yep.
But look at that. Jim Lindsay did not learn that from Sam Walton. He had that innate belief. And so he said, most of the time they don't even answer the phone because it's 8:30 at night, and maybe it's a business. But when they say to me, you didn't call me back, I can say,
yes,
I called you back. I call everybody back. So I thought, man, if Jim Lindsay calls everybody back, who in the world is Gary Head?
Right.
He better darn sure call everybody back.
It's a sign of respect.
It is.
I think. And that's so fundamental in your relationships with people, which you have been a rock star or movie star in creating and maintaining. What else do you think is the key to that, though? Maintaining, because everybody goes, relationships are great.
Well,
it's important in business.
So
but
I think my biggest job today in 208 employees and 10 locations is to make sure that our culture stays the same.
Yes.
Because you bring in all those people and you get somebody that doesn't get the culture, and you can have a festering problem that is my fault if it happens because I should have avoided it, right? I am blessed to have people that get it on the culture thing. And all of our commanders, and that's what I think they are, they're running these markets, they get it, man. They know what our culture is. They know. I think the other day in Jonesboro, your old hometown, they call us the alternative bank. And that's cool. To me, that's the coolest thing you've ever called me.
Yeah.
Because you know what that means? I'm not the normal old board bank. Right?
Yeah,
I am the alternative bank. Well, in Harrison, Arkansas, the young lady that runs that bank, she started working in college at the lobby at Signature Bank in Fayetteville. She's now president of the bank in her hometown. Now, you tell me what's cooler than that.
That's
I don't know what's cooler than that.
Exactly.
Will Gladden was a teller behind that line in Fayetteville, Arkansas. He's president of that bank. That's the kind of stories that everybody doesn't really understand. You can't make someone be proud.
Yeah.
They have to have that internally. So if you find people that have done things that they should be proud of and put them in areas of responsibility, it's amazing what happens.
Yep. That's very true.
And every business has those people that need to be turned loose to go, hey, what can you do on your own? You ran a business. You can't run all that business.
Oh, no. Well, no. Not even get close to it. I mean, you have to have that team. Well, I think that, one thing you were talking about earlier about calling people back, I think that I've been guilty of this to where I start seeing it as more of a job or a responsibility versus continuing that passion of coming almost to that humility, like you're talking about in the very beginning from your dad, right?
Yeah.
Like you're really, when you start slipping into this is a business and I have to do things for the business versus I'm really helping people be successful, I think it's critical and key. And with your 20 years at the bank and all you've done in your career, how do you maintain that type of vision like that? To stay connected with really the value that you're bringing.
Well, you have to like it. When you don't, you should quit.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can tell you is that, I got a lot of friends. I'm 64. I got a lot of friends that are retiring.
Yeah.
Because they're done with it. They don't love it. I love it. They're like, when are you going to retire? I go, when you read the obituary column, you're going to say, I'm out.
Right? Carry me out on a stretcher, baby.
But until then, one of my oldest friends turns 88 next Tuesday. Mort Flesher, he was chairman last of Store Capital, which was the largest real estate REIT in the United States. Turns 88 yesterday, called me to wish me happy holidays.
Mm-hmm.
He's an old Jewish fellow that I became friends with 25 years ago, and we've remained friends all these years. I'm on the board of his Flesher Scholars, and I enjoy calling him. And so we've kept a relationship. I had dinner with him 2 months ago in Phoenix. He lives in Scottsdale. And to me, all of us need those people that sort of check your math.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Make you sit up a little straighter, make you think a little differently, right? And you can't, if they're politically opposite of you, that makes them bad.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's the problem in the country today.
We all need, it's not all vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
There's chocolate, strawberry, there's sprinkles.
Right.
Everybody brings something to the table.
That's right.
That doesn't make me right and you wrong. I might not agree with everything you say, but at the end of the day, I'm proud to know you because you know some stuff I don't know. And I wish everyone thought about that this
I
morning.
agree.
Because it is really, I mean, like, maybe I'm getting too deep, Mark, here. But I mean, I always like talking about the emotional part. I'm getting philosophical. I like the emotional part to all this business stuff because, like, there is a level of energy in this room right now as entrepreneurs, right, that we honestly have that a lot of folks can't get to. But I think that when we're talking about folks trying to be entrepreneurs, they want to be entrepreneurs, they're thinking about the product and all these kind of strategic, tactical things that have to happen. But there is something core in this room that's instinctual, that's emotional, that where you're talking about connecting with other people, improving yourself, learning from them, being mentored, mentoring others. That's really special, I think, in our hearts, right? Because I agree with you.
We want to be loved.
Want to be loved.
Want to be loved, and we want to love.
We want to be loved.
Exactly.
You know, I think you're right about that. But not to change the subject again.
But you are.
But I will.
I was getting somewhere in this counsel. I'm needing counseling for, and you block it.
This is our normal, terrible. It's our section. Once a week, we have to counsel each other here. I want to go back to Signature Bank, and it's sort of aligned with something that you said, Gary. You have started this Bank OC,
Yes.
which is I think is a it just was brilliant. I mean, the moment you told me about that, I'm like, there's an idea that's going to work.
And you know, I mean,
Tell us about this.
So Banco C is 100% Hispanic run organizations in downtown Rogers and downtown Springdale. My entire team are all Latina. They speak
Latinx.
They speak English better than I do. I am on my 838th day of Duolingo Espanol, trying to make sure that I know when they talk bad about me, they think that's funny. I am El Patron because we have a president, so they love calling me El Patron. They write all my speeches and I can read it. And here's what I do know is that we have a couple of 100,000 Latinas living in Northwest Arkansas that were being underbanked.
Exactly.
So I didn't do anything other than, go try to serve a market that was already here.
Sure.
I didn't create that market. I did. And I think the interesting thing that you guys would probably, you still have to have help, because I don't speak Spanish very well and I'm learning. But so I'd go to Dr. Adam Arroyos, who is an incredible human. And I had lunch with him at Meiji, and I said, look, here's what happened one time when I was behind that line as president of the bank in Fayetteville. I watched some guy come up there, and he was standing there at the teller line when all of the other people were cashing their checks. And I'm like, what a nice guy. I can't believe he's like interpreting, because we didn't have anybody probably that could speak any. I'll come to find out later that he told them that we were going to cheat them out of their money. And so he was charging them $1 a piece to cash their checks.
Oh, my God.
Infuriated.
Wow.
Infuriated.
No kidding. It's terrible. Exploiting.
Hey, look, I can't stand cheaters.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or liars, right? And so I just, it took me a while because we went through what all of the banks went through. And so finally I was telling the story, and I said, I want a bank that anyone who speaks Spanish as a first language or strongly as their first language can walk in and not have one question about what are they getting into?
Yeah.
What am I buying? What am I selling? What is the financial repercussions?
There is a lack of trust.
Trying to do.
I think.
And we know why.
Yeah.
Because no one cares.
Sure.
I care. So here's what happens is Dr. Arroyo says to me, I still have to take my mother to the bank. She is not comfortable in there without me.
Yeah.
And I said, Adam, you help me build a bank that your mother will go in by herself.
Yeah.
And she did. Now that's success.
Wow.
And so I is there a Banco C everywhere? There's probably an office of Banco C inside of the rest of our banks, but the biggest two populations are Rogers and Springdale. We're going to start there and see if we can make a difference. And we are dedicated to it. Our board loves it.
Yep.
I think it's brilliant.
There's a lot of education involved because there's a lot of those Hispanic people that they've been taught not to trust a bank.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to start over with wait a minute. Eddie Ramos is a really good guy. He graduated from Springdale High School, but his family's from Mexico. He's a really good guy. Go talk to Eddie and let him help you be successful. Yeah. And there's 1,800 members of Latinx and A, which Adam's company has, of small business in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
1,800.
Sure.
Hopefully somebody needs to do this in Spanish. right? You know
No,
what I'm saying?
no, absolutely.
You need to.
No,
And,
yeah.
and those people have an opportunity to be more successful if they have more access to finances.
Of course.
Yes.
And so what's in it for me? Duh. I want to be the guy that loans them the money.
Right.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I get to make money when I loan them money. But at the same time, today they're operating, hey, you know what? I'm building a house. More than half of the people building that house for me are Hispanic.
That's right.
You know, I go to every one of them and I give them a Bible C hat. I go, get your tail over there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Sure.
make sure you know what's available to you. You don't have to do anything. I just want you to be informationally educated about what you have the opportunity to do.
Yep.
You know,
It's such a great idea. It's amazing that nobody else thought of that. I mean,
well, and if you see any of the population,
it's just,
the Hispanic population is going to be a huge part of all of our future. You know, and
not to mention the percentage of self-employment and business ownership has got to be higher than it is for Caucasians, right?
more Hispanic businesses are started every day than anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Will continue to be on that rise. And,
Sure.
and you know, all of them laugh when I screw up my conversations in Spanish, but they appreciate the fact that I'm trying, right?
Yes.
You know, I mean, see, I can barely speak English. What do you want to do? You know, I went to Eureka Springs High School. Give me a break.
And they know that. They're like, he can barely speak English too. So
El Patron.
you know.
Yeah.
Hey, I hate to rewind it back, but what he's talking about is compassion.
It is.
on that vision.
No, it is. It's
I mean,
true.
it really is, right? And I think if people don't have that core, then you're gonna wind out of energy. You're gonna lose the focus of why you do. It's the why you do the things that you do that is the difference. That is the difference between is what Signature Bank brings, and it's coming from you, right? In that founding moment, like
Gary's a people person. I mean, he really is. He's a people person. Even though you're in a quantitative business.
I just think that we complicate business so much.
I know. I agree.
It's the driven passion behind that person. I was reading something this morning. Or I was watching a video this morning, right, on LinkedIn, and it was a founder of a really successful company, and he was talking about how really smart folks that go through education, right, they build these expectations because you graduate with really smart people, you're around really smart people, and then you go out in the real world, and you have this expectation, getting this big corporate job. But when you're an entrepreneur, what these people are missing is resilience because their expectation. And so when they go to those things where you have to suffer, they're like, why am I suffering? I'm too smart to suffer. But it's the resilience that's the entrepreneur. And the resilience is coming from a vision of compassion of something you're trying to attain. And you go through the freaking suffering.
I got to tell you this story because this is my favorite. This is old. This was from my friend. My friends in Little Rock ran First Commercial Bank, very successful bank. And Charlie Murphy was his lead stockholder in the day in Murphy Oil Company in Delta.
Sure.
Charlie was a salty old guy, and he used to put a cigar in his mouth and chew it through the board meetings. And he had some really cool things. Occasionally he'd go, we're going to count the vote or weigh it, meaning I own more. We're going to do what I tell you. And he would, they had this big, thick white carpet and on their boardroom, and he'd chew that cigar, spit, and it drove the chairman out of his mind. Barnett Grace, he's spitting on the floor, you know.
Oh, my gosh.
He didn't care. He paid for it. So they had this big conversation one time at First Commercial about, and three of my friends ran it, about we're just not smart enough. We've got to go hire some Stanford and some Horton and all of this stuff because we're just not smart enough. And so this guy, Charlie's so good, he spit his cigar out. He goes, let me just tell y'all. He said, we did the same thing down there at Murphy Oil Company. We hired all these smart guys. You know what smart guys know how to do? Make everybody else work. They don't work. They sit around and figure out how not to work. He said, I fired every one of them. He said, I went up there at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville and I asked two questions. First is, did you work while you were in college? If the answer was no, I said, thank you very much.
Yes.
Second question is, did you graduate with a C or better? And if it was yes, I hired them. We've never made more money.
Yeah.
And it's so true.
That is so true. You know, I was just
Can't teach him to work. That was his point.
Exactly. But see, I think all of us and a lot of successful people I know who are real entrepreneurs, they did a lot of crappy jobs.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Okay. You know,
First question on an interview was, what's the hardest job you ever had and what made it difficult?
and that makes you more empathetic with the working man and the plight of the person who's out there doing whatever your business does.
Yeah.
And if you haven't had that experience,
You can't relate.
I went through tirades with HR people in my life, especially when I worked at Arvis, because they were really worried about it. But I'd always go, where are you from? We can't ask that. Why? Well, you know, I mean, you're redlining or some rule. I don't even know what it is. Well, wait a minute. What if I know like half the people that you know? Well, why would I not want to know?
Of course.
You grow up. Because where you grew up says a lot about you.
True.
You know,
really
it defines all of us. Where did you grow up? What kind of life did you have? Because in life, you want to try to fit people together that are congruent.
of course.
And if you know where everybody's from and you know how you were raised and how I was raised, then you have a lot better chance of making everybody happy than if you're trying to discover that later by finding out, you know, hey, I've never had a real job, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've always asked that question, where are you from? And you know, it's a small world.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
It's a small world.
Hey, all you got to do is do 23andMe and you'll find out who you're related to that you didn't even know.
I had no
Okay, I found out one of the largest developers around here is actually a cousin of mine.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's like, how does that happen? But no, Gary, though, I back on what we're talking about. One of the things I think is great about banking and why I encourage some of my entrepreneurial students to look at banking, which you would think isn't entrepreneurial, right?
Right.
You got these rules, you got these guidelines, you know, there's a lot of them out there, whatever. But is the education that you get as a banker in just
History.
everything, business, all aspects of business. It's like case study after case study after case study after case study. Look at the Harvard Business School. How do they teach people? Case studies. What do you have on a daily basis?
Case study after case study and case study.
Who makes money? Who doesn't? What works? What doesn't? Who fails? Who succeeds?
What caused them to not make it?
Yes.
What on that point, what can you see after all this time that you've had? Like what a good entrepreneur, like an entrepreneur that you can maybe sense that's going to do well.
Well,
it's going to make it.
That's difficult, but 42 years is how long I've been doing this.
Yeah.
And today is my 43rd wedding anniversary to the same poor woman.
Congratulations.
It's amazing.
To you.
God,
well,
she is a saint.
Medal of Honor.
Sure does. All of
I think, you know, so you got to stick to it is my point about all of that is, you know, people get in things and it's not the flavor of the day, because if it's the flavor of the day, it's easy to quit, you know? So the people that I've seen that have been successful are horrible losers. They are willing to do whatever it takes to make it. And I try to ascertain that from the conversation from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
That's not always easy, but I'm better at it today than I was, you know, 43 years ago. I think that the people that I've seen that, you know, some people get in a business and then they get fat and happy. I guess that's the right words to use this context.
Sure.
And they quit working. They hire some smart guy to run their business and they don't pay attention.
Kiss of death.
Sure. The thing ain't working and the culture goes to hell, and you know what, things don't run the same. So if you don't want to run it, get out of it. That'd be my advice to a small business.
I like that.
And if you want to run it, then do it, and do it every day. You know, restaurant businesses are people that start restaurants and then they try to make 1,000 of them, and you know that culture goes away, and that's why they're, you know, the biggest failure in the world is restaurants turn over faster than any other business in the world. Because you can't be at all of them. The ones that I know, I mean, you know what? I've been Jose's banker all his life. He ran every business he ever ran, and every one of them was successful. Because when you went down there and walked in, there was Joe Fennell standing right there.
Right.
Yeah.
And he cared.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Joe's a great
And Doug's the same way. Doug has Jose's. Doug's there. Doug's in the kitchen working. You know, if he's not fishing, he's working. So I just think that people that care win more than not.
Yeah.
Because they do care, and they'll work harder to figure out, what do I got to do to keep making it, you know? Because it would have been easy in 2009 to hand them the keys and go, shit, this ain't going to work, man. That's am I going to put up with all these regulators and they're telling me I'm dumb and stupid and horrible.
Right.
And, but you know what? Everything I own was in this business. And
course.
still is. And I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm a horrible quitter.
Yeah.
I don't like quitters. I never was one, you know. Maybe I should have a time or two, but I never would. You know?
Yeah. And so you kind of, when you're talking to a new entrepreneur that's starting a business, I mean,
I'm
you
looking
can
for
kind
their
of,
passion. You know,
Yeah.
I'm looking for their
Mhm.
wisdom
Mhm.
about, hey, everybody knows how it works if it's good.
yeah.
My questions are always, what are you going to do if this doesn't work?
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to work with me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go get a job and pay you back.
Yeah.
That's what I expect to hear.
It's a good answer.
Because the truth is, you know, are you going to quit and leave me holding the bag?
So-
Or are you going to go do whatever it takes to make sure you honor your work?
Yeah.
Because every note that's ever been says, I promise to pay. It's what it says.
Yeah.
You can read every one you ever signed.
I hear
That's
you.
what it says. So you promise to pay. Okay, well, are you going to do it? Right? Because that's the job of a banker, is to collect the money back. One time, JB Hunt was driving down the road and we were talking about this and banking and his stuff and this and that. And he goes, you know, we're all in the receivables business. Nothing better has ever been said.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, it's been said before that banks really only provide liquidity.
Yeah.
What do you think of that statement?
Well, then that's a horrible banker.
Yeah, because you do more than that.
Well, if all you need
Sometimes
is
there's-
money, go see Bank of America because that's all you're going to get. You're going to get no advice. They're not going to be interested in your success.
Yeah, you've been like a management consultant or business consultant to
Yeah, Bob,
businesses that you work with.
I mean, we're a financial partner.
Yeah,
What do you want out of a partner?
right. You want good advice.
Shut up, stay in the corner?
No
No.
input. You want more than their money. You want their advice. You want their
Tell me what you
expertise.
think about my deal
Sure.
every single time. I had
Yeah.
a meeting 2 days ago. One partner buying out another partner. He wanted me there because he wanted to look me in the eye and say, here's what I think I'm going to do. What do you think?
Mhm.
I think it's the best idea I've ever heard. This guy's happy. You're happy. You got the ability to do it. When do we close? We went to the board the next day and blessed what we'd already agreed to do.
Yeah.
That's how we did it.
Sure.
And our board loves that deal. They love those people. They already knew them. This wasn't some new guy to town, right? But it's great to see people getting to buy their partners out.
Yeah.
Because age and other...
Sure. That's the exit. It's the
You can't
continuity.
do that. How long would it have taken Bank of America to agree to let some guy off the debt
Oh yeah.
Right.
and buy the guy out with an existing line of
They
credit?
probably couldn't even do it. And
Well, there's going to be some agreement that's going to have to be rewritten, and it's going to take a lawyer 9 weeks to think about what is going to be in this agreement, right? Business has to happen at the speed of business, and it's very difficult. And honestly, you know, a $10 billion bank has rules I don't have. We're a billion three. You know, I have no desire to be 10 billion and have all these rules that make what I do no fun,
yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah.
I have no desire to be in that situation. Look, hey, my old friend French Hill got named to the bank, the congressional chair of finance, and that's a big deal because he was a banker in Arkansas and he's really good. I text him and congratulate him, and you know, hopefully he can help make some of these rules better for business and better for banks, which mean better for business as far as some of the silliness that's been going on with certain people trying to write all the rules. CFPB trying to, you know, you're not smart enough to borrow money, so we're going to tell the bank how they have to loan you money. Well,
Excuse me.
there's a lot of rules in banking that cost money eventually
Sure.
to the end user because we have to
Got to recover your overhead.
5 people
Right.
to keep up with the paperwork.
That's right.
Excuse me. Yeah, you've only got so much to work with there.
And there's still a court of law. If I don't treat you right, you can sue me. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that stuff is assuming that you're too dumb to understand that, and you should be, as a customer, you should be pissed that they think you're too dumb to understand that. You know?
I don't understand the litigiousness of some people. It's never been my orientation.
No. It generally
You know?
does cost a lot of money and never works.
So what's another question I have, like as an entrepreneur, like entrepreneurs, like I'm just using myself as an example. Like I was not in banking, right? I didn't come from that background. I didn't work at a bank. I didn't understand anything about it. I just knew when I started my business that I needed some cash to make investments and things I needed to do. But what's important for a bank, like as an entrepreneur, like how should I approach? I mean, you gave the number one, are you going to pay me back?
Yeah.
The big promise, right? Which, okay, say I check that off. That's just my character. But next, as I'm trying to grow my business and like what's important for the bank to have from the entrepreneur in order to continue to partner?
Similarly to the original conversation is, okay, here's what we think we're going to do, but here's our plan B. If you don't have a plan B, how do I get the hell out of this deal?
Yeah.
You better know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be the one that has to get out of it, right?
Yeah.
So the riskier that it is, and startup businesses are the riskiest.
Yeah.
Then, as you and I've told 1,000 of your students, sometimes you have to have a rich uncle. Sometimes you have to have somebody that
Most of the time.
money that allows you to borrow that much money because you ain't ever going to borrow that much money.
Yeah.
And I can love the hell out of a project, but if it doesn't have a plan B, I can't explain that either. Because I have regulators that come in, every other year. Hello, how you doing? Let me look at all your stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people never really think about why they should develop a relationship with people with money. Well, I don't want to give up any of my ownership. Okay, well, 100% of a little bitty deal does not weigh the same
Exactly.
as half of a giant deal because you were smart enough to go sell some other people that have some other thing to add to your business, right? You don't go, if you go get partners just for money outside of a bank,
Not a good idea.
you want to go get people that are, additive to whatever it is you're doing. They know something about shipping. They know something about some other part of your business.
They come out of a customer. They're come out of regulate. They're a regulator.
Exactly.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so many times a good business plan has to include I've had to go out and raise money with people that I don't know, and so
You were very successful at it.
the fact is you have to have a plan B, and plan B can't be, well, if it don't work, I'm
Toast.
toast.
So a good plan B to a banker would look like, hey, here's my business idea. I need to borrow this amount. I'm good for paying that back. Also, look at the people I'm surrounding with, I'm connecting with, I'm getting to be part of my business. And so that gives, that reduces the risk.
That's the
associated
thought is, how do I reduce the, and as the entrepreneur, you want to reduce risk to yourself.
Sure.
I'm going to put everything in this, and I got a family, and if this doesn't work, I'm going to out here on the side of the road. You want to try to build something that lasts. And so to last, sometimes you have to have other people's money.
Yep.
Yep. Well, speaking of all this, I think that one thing I always advise my small business that I work with, small businesses or students or whatever, is keep your bank informed of good and bad.
Exactly.
Most people don't want to they only want to give the good, but they never say like, hey, this is what's going on, but this is how we're dealing with it. But it's going to look ugly for the next 3 months.
Right.
Okay. Instead, they just let it get ugly for 3 months. And then they go, holy cow, banks hate that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And bad news, bad news is not fun no matter who you are, when it is, it doesn't matter. But, if you got to eat an elephant, you got to take big bites, so if you've done something wrong, go take it, get it over with. Jim Lindsay used to always tell me also, he goes, hey, call the hardest call you got first.
Yes.
You're on a downhill slide through the calls.
It's true.
And man, telling somebody that I can't loan you money, to me, sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't like doing that.
Yeah, you make money from the loans.
I want to make the loan, but when someone's so passionate and yet I can't get comfortable with the damn thing, that call sucks to me. That's one of the worst calls I have to make is, hey, you know what? I can't do that. I've tried to figure everything in the world and I just can't get there, And if I have a good relationship with you, you're like, well, hey, tell me why I need to do something different. If you don't like me, you're like, you're a turd. See you later. I'm going somewhere else. And I don't want to be that guy that just says yes or no. I want to have advice.
Yeah.
All of our people do. We have relationships. We're friends with, I don't think we have clients we're not friends with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We have friendly relations with every client that we have. And that's how we can move faster is because I know you, Eric. I know everything you've done. I know what you got. And I can say to you on the telephone, if you're in California, I want to buy this dadgum souped up Bronco in the middle of, that'd be more like him, but souped up Bronco, write a check, bring the title with you.
Yeah.
Let's go.
How do you maintain that though at the scale that, now you're $1.3 billion or whatever?
You have to have more people that can do it.
Because that's fine when you're, a certain size, right?
Ryan Dagley can do it.
Okay.
I mean, I can name every president I got. Ryan Moore's over there in Jonesboro and in the alternative bank. And,
How, how do you make the handoff? You know, I think another problem with a business that probably a lot of us have had is that your customers only want to deal with you. So it's like, how do you say, hey, you know,
I got to do that long ago with my provider. Yeah. So, you know, and here's the deal. I'm never going to tell you can't call me. So the answer is, but when that person that's taking care of your stuff and actually doing all the work, when you quit calling me, I know you're comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's true. Quit calling me, then I probably got the wrong guy handling your stuff.
Yeah.
Or lady. Fair?
That's
So I've never quit taking those phone calls. And sometimes, even though that person is someone that you trust and admire, you say, hey, I want to know what you think about this. I get those every single day, 7 days a week. You know, my phone rings on Saturday and Sunday, just like, you know.
That's a really good point. I like that because that's a challenge that I've experienced. You know, as you build relationships, you're getting clients, you're the entrepreneur, you got to be in sales. You got to be the one that's building the partnerships and relationships, right? And then there comes a point where the work is too much. You can't work.
No.
You can't execute.
Exactly.
And then how do you start passing over? But I love that statement, you know, that if you're calling me still, that I need to find somebody else to handle your business.
Well,
it's a really good.
You got to think about this. If you have all of the responsibilities and you aren't as proud as you should be of that person that can take that away. See, some entrepreneurs
That's true.
Get past their ego being, I'm the best. I am. You know, I'm the only man that can do this, and so you better
probably haven't been in business very long.
One-person management. It's a failure of a lot of small businesses.
Exactly.
One-person management.
You should be proud of the people that
that's right.
that can accomplish what you do as you are of your own accomplishments. If you can't do that, you are going to be limited.
That segues beautifully into the next thing I'd like to talk about. We're in a hot employment market. I mean, we're in a hot area, right? Northwest Arkansas is probably one of the greatest economies out there. I mean, DFW is maybe bigger, but I mean, this is a great area. And so many small business owners say, I can't hire anybody. There's no good people out there. My people suck. That's why we have bad customer service, yada, yada, yada. What do you say to that? Why, why do they have a hard time hiring good people?
Well, probably because they don't want to pay them.
Hey, exactly.
Second,
I agree 100%.
Second, and here's the thing I always tell people when they go to workforce is that first off, I have jobs, I don't have positions. So you got to do the job. Second is the more I pay you, the higher my expectations of your output.
Yep.
So let's be clear. If I'm going to start you at that, you better run fast every day. Get on the treadmill, don't get off. So you have to prove yourself just like I did.
Right.
You know, my dad was a real mail carrier. I didn't come to this world with money. I had to work. I expect that from everybody that works at that place.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you have to set expectations, but you can't be afraid to hire someone and pay them if they're good.
Yeah.
You know, I saw that 30 for 30, and I probably watched two of them in my entire life, but I saw Jimmy Johnson because I know him and I like him, the old football coach, right? And they were doing a 30 for 30 on how successful he'd been. And the last clip was the only one worth watching. He's getting on his boat in Miami because that's where he lived after he coached there. He's got Bill Belichick in the boat with him, and they're getting ready to take off and go. And he goes, Coach, what's the best advice you ever gave anybody? And he said, well, my gosh. He turns and looks. He goes, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you the advice I got from that guy right there. Best advice I ever give is the best advice I ever got. Coach, what did you tell me? He says, you can't coach dumb. That guy could be the most athletically talented human being on the planet. Bill Belichick's got
That's funny.
6 world championships. You can't coach dumb.
Who?
They may be shiny and look
Oh,
good and
man,
all
that's
that
so
stuff,
true.
but if they don't understand the plays, they ain't going to make them.
Well, I've always said you can't win an argument with a stupid person.
Well,
Okay? I mean, an intelligent person.
anyway.
Thank God I'm not arguing.
Not stupid. But, okay, well,
I think you have to try to think about the quality. I mean, you got to be a little better at interviewing, you know? I mean, unfortunately, in my lifetime, I've had to interview a few thousand people. And
sure.
you get better at it only But if you're starting a new business and you've interviewed 5 people in your life, you don't ask them what's the hardest question you ever asked. What's the hardest job you ever had in your life? What made it difficult? That tells you about what their background is, right? They need some help on stuff like that about how do I hire someone that knows how to work?
There you go.
Not what their grade point average was. Well, mine was 2.009. I remind you of that.
I know you always say that. Listen, I had a brother though, like you, who was very successful, and he had a similar GPA.
Yeah.
Let me just say.
But I made A's in math.
Okay. But but anyway, he ended up the head of a $17 billion company. But but back on this whole notion of hiring, first off, we're not just talking about startups. We're talking about existing small businesses. And, I do think many of them, if you talk to these owners, they'll tell you they're not really interested in growth. Now, don't you think that makes it hard to hire good people if you say, I don't want to grow?
I wouldn't want to go to work.
Exactly.
I'm as big as I want to be, and we want you to come here.
Yeah.
Someone once told me I like you right where you are.
Oh, that's
It didn't
terrible.
last there very long.
No, that's the last job you want.
It was, And so I will tell you that most people want, honestly, they want opportunity, right? That's what we all want, opportunity. And opportunity comes with growth. It doesn't come.
It does.
We're going to shut this thing down. I want you to come over here and go to work for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm headed for the stop sign as fast as I can go so I can stop, right? That's no good.
The great thing about the growth is you get jobs you're not qualified for.
Exactly.
And that's how
Then
you
you're
grow.
poor at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you grow.
Yeah.
So
And here's another thing. We graduate a ton of kids,
yeah.
more every day out of that U of A. Right.
Okay.
Without that education, I wouldn't have had a job, okay? Because that's how I got a job. John Dominic got me a job because I had an education. Not because I was smart, not because I was anything, because I finished what I started, period.
Yeah. Right.
That's what college did.
It's a big part of it.
I finished what I started. Well, here's the cool thing is I have had people with every degree as bankers.
Sure.
You can be a history guy, and if you're a history major, guess what? You know a lot about history. There's a lot of clients, they love history. So you have a conversation piece that not everybody has.
Yeah, good
You
point.
don't have to be a finance guy to have a finance job.
Sure.
You just prove that you can stay somewhere and finish what you started. Now give me a shot at learning how to do this. I learned banking when I got in banking. I
Right.
learned banking in college.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You learn everything you've ever done. They didn't have a class on that in school.
Yeah.
No.
You have the only entrepreneur class that I'm aware of on the planet Earth, and that yet does not teach them to be an entrepreneur. You're telling them, don't walk out of here and think you're going to get to do one.
Yeah.
1 in 10 million is going to be Facebook. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Yep.
exactly. Oh, gosh. But that's another thing that I just want to touch on. And that is, this idea that you have to start a business. I always tell my students, maybe buying a business is a better way to go. What do you think about that?
Well, and again,
I don't think it's talked enough about in entrepreneurship. Do you?
no, and many times you could be really fortunate. I've seen some people very successful that went to a person that was aging out because of age.
Yes.
And they needed that enthusiasm, new blood.
Yep.
And that put those people in an unbelievable opportunity to run a really good company quickly because they had all of those skills, that work ethic, all of those things. And the
Energy.
timing was right.
Yes.
So, hey, I want you to learn to do this and do it fast because I want to go to the beach or wherever you want to go when you quit, right? And so I think that finding a business with older management, if I had to do it over again, right, I would want to think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of value to that. A lot of
They got customers. They got people.
that's the
You don't
thing.
have to start from
That's the
They got a history of financial performance that you can look at, and
Yeah,
just-
it's easier to borrow money on a deal that's 5 years old.
There. That's another thing.
they're more bankable. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you deal? You must see a lot of these businesses that are in that position where the owners are aging out, or they got health problems, or they're going through a divorce and they're not paying attention to what they got.
Yeah.
What do you do with those people?
It's pretty rare, really. I mean, it's not common. It's uncommon because most of them have family or somebody's already in the deal. So to have nothing with a plan for who you're going to give it to
Right.
is a pretty rare bird, really. However, they are there. And, business brokers, many times, that's where you start, is you look at business brokers where people trying to sell their business. You're like, what are you trying to sell your business for? That's a lot faster way to find those than any other way that I know.
Yeah, there's databases like SunTrust Business. You can get online and you start. I love those things, though. I look at them all the time.
I mean, if you list your business for sale, then that's an act of desperation, because that means you ain't got any way to keep it, right?
Yep.
So I'm not going to say that's a high likelihood that you're going to like what you see. However, that's the best place to mine it.
Yeah.
I'm talking about mining, trying to find something. But
Yep.
Well, this has been a fun conversation.
It has been.
I knew it would be.
Very rich.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's encouraging too. I mean, how often there's this wall or this distance gap between the entrepreneur and the banking system, right?
they don't know me.
They don't.
They don't. No,
Exactly.
but that's the point. That's the value of this conversation.
Yeah.
Is that our audience can have a one-on-one, hear your story, hear your perspective. It's refreshing.
The only stupid question is the one you don't ask, right?
True.
And I learned that in grade school. The fact is that if you don't have a relationship with your banker and your lawyer and your accountant, then you are not going to be as successful as you could be.
It's true.
And if you don't like one of the three, you ought to change them.
Yeah. Because there's options.
That's right. The only caveat to that is you need competent ones.
Well, that's
I'll tell you, because I've had accountants who didn't know what they were doing.
right.
And I've had lawyers who will take you on and don't really have the experience in the area that they need.
Generally speaking,
Competence.
have one of those people that you have confidence in.
Then they can give you the other
That's
ones.
right.
That's a good point.
That's right.
That is a very good
A
point.
recommendation from one of those for the others is generally a good place to start. Just make sure it's not his cousin. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you know this person. You need to ask more questions too. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Don't buy everything you're getting sold.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, there's so many things I'd like to talk about with Gary. He's got so many great stories of entrepreneurs he's known and mistakes and great decisions people made. We need to have him come back.
I'd love to. I'd love to hear your founding story about Signature Bank. I mean, that'd be really cool.
Be happy to.
Yeah.
Be happy to.
Because it's not easy to start a bank.
No. But I'll tell you, when you raise $45 million the first night on Dixon Street at a bar, it's a pretty good way to start a bank.
Says something about your contacts and relationships, doesn't it? And trust people have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can say I love you. When you get your checkbook out, it changes.
That's true.
Amen, brother. Amen to that.
Hey, thank you both, and thank both of you for your business with me in the past, and I appreciate it. That's how we make payments at our house. As clients like you guys.
We love you, and it's always fun dealing with you.
Well, same with you. I appreciate both of you.
Well, everybody, this has been a great conversation, and next week we'll have another episode of Big Talk about small business. If you are interested in sponsoring our show, we'd love to hear from you.
Don't come across desperate, Mark.
No, I'm not. Not, but it'd be nice.
It would be. Hey, I've actually talked to a sponsor last week.
Wow, amazing. You didn't tell me that.
Well, it's going to be a surprise. I'm waiting until the check.
Okay. Well, anyway, we'll see y'all next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Big Talk about small business. If you have any questions or ideas for upcoming shows, be sure to head over to our website, www.bigtalkaboutsmallbusiness.com, and click on the Ask the Host button for the chance to have your questions answered on the show. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn at Big Talk About Small Business. And be sure to head over to our website to read articles, browse episodes, and ask questions about upcoming shows.